Dawson's Rambles.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. I'm gonna move Ace over a little bit. With my Beast Morphers theory video that I talked about doing, this was originally intended to come out basically in the same place as the weekly episode review since we're on hiatus this week, but I wanted to give the schedule like a day to breathe with all the Ryusoulger stuff, and then the Beast X Morpher review yesterday, finally the first Beast Morpher toy review, so check that out, and that's like a 20-minute video too, so if anyone's watching that, I just wanted to give it a day to breathe. So I thought Sunday is a good day, Sunday fun day, let's have fun Beast Morphers theories. So these are just gonna kind of be speculation based off of, I'm sorry for that. Just theories based off of stuff we know from Beast Morphers, obviously from the first few episodes, from some of the stuff we've heard about, some theories based off of what we know from the Sentai footage, and just some general wild speculation. Now, I mean, some of these will be kind of tame, but I think a lot of this is just kind of, I don't want to say wishful thinking, but it's just kind of more wild speculation, like I just said. Like, there's certain ideas I have or theories that I don't necessarily think will happen because I think, just to be safe, we should all temper our expectations. Like, I think Beast Morphers has been really enjoyable so far, but I don't want to go too crazy and assuming all this quality and things that they might do. But I think it's definitely given us some fun things to think about, especially with the way that they've sort of played with certain things. Like, you know, Blaze's counterpart, Darkbuster, wasn't a series, like, finale arc thing for Go Busters, but he's being introduced to us at the very beginning of the series now as a regular character, and so stuff like that, they've shown a willingness, even in the Neo Saban era, they showed a willingness to play with the order of the Sentai footage, and I think a lot of us need to, I feel like the Sentai footage tends to constrict a lot of people's thinking, and there's a lot of they can't or they're supposed to thinking, and even, you know, no matter what Saban or Hasbro does, I don't think we need to think like that because honestly, frankly, anything's possible. I don't think that anything is like, you can't say, oh, they can't do this because of the footage. Film your own show. I think that they can do anything, whether they do that this season or next season or in 5-year seasons. I think there's a lot of creative potential. But anyway, I thought it was a little mini rant. So let's go off of a couple things that we know about. So obviously we have almost said Dark Blaze. That's funny, that's a person on Twitter. We have Blaze and Roxy. So right now we have the Darkbuster suit and then kind of a gold version of Escape's suit. And there is other suits for Enter and Escape, their counterparts in Go Busters. The Roxy one is kind of like a darker colored version of the suit she has now, and there's also like an evolved, bigger form. And then Enter had kind of more of a monster form that was more like a robotic suit before he got Darkbuster. So those could end up both being used somehow by both of these characters. I think that for Escapes / Roxy's, it could just easily be some sort of upgrade. You know, like, oh, we're more powerful, we got morph-x, or like dark virus energy, or something like that. Or it could be something like maybe she comes out of the coma and like her avatar and person become one, and she becomes, you know, extra evil or something. Also, just in case you were wondering, I'm not using visual aids because of the whole Hasbro copyright thing still, so I'll try to link to a few things in the description, but I apologize. Again, hopefully at some point in the near future I'll be able to start using visual aids again, but until then, just, you know, I'll try to paint a picture, sort of. So I think that would be something pretty simple. As far as Enter's suit, I honestly think, personally, that might end up being a different character. I mean, they could end up using it as maybe like a power-up or an alternate form for Blaze, or maybe he somehow loses access to this more Ranger-esque form. But I think that they might just make it a different character because there's stuff like, you know, the Neo Zeltrax, who we, you know, it's not a different character than what's supposed to be, but we completely took it out of the context of what you might think. And like there was, you know, everything involved with Heckle maybe being Dark Ranger or Talon Ranger at the time that didn't happen. And they ended up using the villain suit that was used for Talon Ranger for something completely different, like a one-off, and then we used this Snide suit. Speaking of, I talked a little bit about this, and I'll link to this, the theories about the triple Dino crossover, because there was Vivix from Dino Charge seen on set. And the name Vargoyle was theorized by a couple people to maybe be the Neo Goldar or the Griffrazor suit, also from the Dino team-up. I think that's a pretty solid theory. It might not even have to do with the Triple Dino team-up. I think they could just use that suit. Because he was mentioned in the Dark Dimension area. And a lot of people have said that, like, he's the big bad of that, and then Evox is, like, his underling. But I don't think that's the case. I think Vargoyle, like, now that it's taken a minute, I think Vargoyle just is kind of like the ruler of that dark dimension that they're in. And, like, Skrillex is scared of him. I know his name's whatever, but I call him Skrillex now. Evox just happens to be a visitor there now, and then Skrillex is also just scared of him. So I don't think at the moment at this point in time in the show, Evox and Vargoyle have anything to do with each other that we know of. I think that Evox just happens to be in that dimension now. But I think that's a solid theory that could end up being that suit, whether it has anything to do with the Triple Dino team-up footage or not. Now, as far as the Sixth Ranger goes, we obviously know the Sixth Ranger. We know that we have gold and silver coming down the pipeline, and seemingly confirmed, revealed, from the set pictures we've gotten, Nate is supposed to be gold, and we're supposedly getting some version of the J counterpart, or some version of J. That's a counterpart on a counterpart. So Nate definitely, I feel like his physique doesn't fit gold, but that really hasn't stopped PR before. But if that is true, I mean, I'm saying if, I think it's pretty much true, but I just want to say if to cover myself in case it does a sudden left turn. But I think that with that, there's some interesting possibilities. There was footage of an Enter version of the suit where he transformed and had a black visor with a little tech bit on there. And given the whole avatar of it all, I could see maybe Nate somehow, his Gold Ranger form actually being an avatar. Kind of like a reverse cybercam, where instead of being like, oh, I'm a ranger and then I have a tech hologram, he could, you know, have physical Nate himself be at the base and then send his like virtual avatar, or maybe plug himself in and project himself out as like a better fighter. I think that would be cool. I think there's a couple cool ways that could go down. Like maybe they kidnap Nate and try to make him into an evil avatar, or maybe he tries to help Blaze and Roxy, or tries to enter the dark dimension. Like they're like, oh, we can enter the dark dimension and find something out, and they're like, it's too dangerous, and Nate's like, I'll show them, and then he gets an avatar created out of him, and that's how we get Gold Ranger. And like, it could be as simple as that, or it could be like, maybe somehow one of those things happens and Evox temporarily does create an evil avatar, which is the Gold Ranger with the dark visor, and then he gains control of it, boom, Gold Ranger. Silver could probably simply just be created as his Beast Bot, because he talked about not having a lot of family, so I could see him creating it to be like a pseudo-family member. I did see a theory based off of like the fact that on the set photos, I can't remember who it was somebody on Ranger Board, but they said based on set photos, like we only have ever seen the J suit without the helmet. I don't know if that's exactly true, maybe there's this photo with the helmet, but also the Beast X Morpher says, I'm half human, half awesome, that maybe we'll have like the J suit with like an android head, so it might be like a best of both worlds, but Hannah Montana, but not. We'll see. I think that's interesting, but I think there's several interesting ways that they could go with the Gold Ranger, with the avatar concept. I mean, who knows, it could be, if they do go that evil Gold Ranger route for like the introduction, they could make a whole new suit, like not like totally different, but they could modify it on their own. Which brings me to my next point, is they've proven they're willing to create some original suits. I mean, they recreated the Go Buster suits, and then they created Skrillex, you know, as our original villain, and I think that's a good sign, and it's definitely no reason, like I'm doing right now, to speculate. I think it's fun to speculate, like, what if they created more Ranger suits? I think that would be super cool, especially since how much I love these suits. I would love them to create US exclusive Rangers, even if it was only one, maybe two. I think that would be super cool. I think the one I would want most is like maybe if Roxy, you know, or Blaze, but Roxy comes out good at some point. Maybe she gets her own suit. I think that would be super cool. Like that's more rangerly. I definitely think that's possible. I think it's kind of a little bit of a pipe dream, just because I don't want to set my expectations too high based off the fact that they created one original villain. Like, yeah, that's cool, but that could be the only thing they do. But there's also the Dobutsu version of the suits. If you don't know, Go Busters did a V-Cinema team-up movie with alternate versions of themselves, which was basically like a really meta joke on like, what if Go Busters was a more traditional Sentai with all the tropes and then posing and stuff. And they had like slightly altered versions of the main suits with like black visors with like fangs, and then you had repurposed suits that created Black Puma and Green Hippopotamus. Still too soon. And like, I'm not sure if we would use those for like a serious purpose, but I could see them being used. Like, ideally, I would love to see some fully brand new suits, just because I love when we do original stuff. But I think those could be fun to either use for, or repurpose slightly, like, you know, modify them a little bit to maybe look a little bit cooler. I think Black Puma looks pretty solid, but Hippopotamus is pretty ridiculous. But given that you know, I feel they lean more in on the animal theme of it all than Go Busters did, maybe it'll make sense. But I think it would be cool to see them appear more like as a one-off, maybe like Cat Ranger situation. Like somebody transforms into them once, or maybe they have it and it's like something you see every now and then, but not like a main team member. I think that would be more fun for like a one-off Cat Nova Ranger bit. But then if something like, you know, Roxy comes in, like maybe get her own ranger suit or something like that. I think that would be cool. I think that's possible. I think there could be cool stuff done with like the Dobutsu helmets. Like again, they could be negative. We could do a classic episode where you have like the negative rangers and they could use that for something like that. I keep looking down because I have my little list because I don't want to forget the points that I wrote down. Something else that's kind of interesting to think about is like Blaze and Roxy, like you kind of just assume based off the way PR goes that they'll eventually be cured and everything will be fine. But how exactly could that go down? I talked about in the first episode review, I believe that, you know, Zoe said something about like, I'm happy to take Roxy's place until she's fixed. And that made me think that maybe there'll be a future episode where we get Roxy and Blaze or one or the other waking up and temporarily taking the mantle back, and then it's like a trick or something. Or maybe it's not a trick and it's kind of like the Wes Alex situation where they're like, oh, you're the better Yellow Ranger. And a couple people mentioned like, well, but they're already bonded to it. But I don't think there's anything in the lore that says like you couldn't create a second Yellow Ranger like bonded to the, so you could kind of have like a 2 Red Rangers from Samurai situation, or that you couldn't unbond Zoe and rebond Roxy, kind of like Energems. Like I think that there's nothing been said so far that says you couldn't have that happen. I think that's a definite possibility. I think it would be pretty cool if like we had Roxy awaken first, like maybe in the season finale, and she's all good now, and then maybe they'll do like a Trent situation where Roxy's all good, but then her avatar like somehow lives on and becomes that corrupted other escape suit. But I think it would be a cool twist. Now this is purely my own like hopes, and there's nothing really to you know, support this theory. Blaze wanted this to happen, because like how did the Evox virus get in there? I've seen a couple plausible theories. I mean, it could just be that he was undetectable. Some people say maybe Nate might be involved. I don't want to see that happen unless it's like a cool twist where he was sort of evil or wanted it to happen or thought it was something good and it was a mistake. But I feel like that would just be kind of a weak retread of Dr. K's storyline, and it would just be like, oh, I feel guilty, and they're like, no, don't feel guilty because friendship, and then like the guilt's over. Unless it's a really cool twist, I don't necessarily want to see that. But like, given that Blaze was kind of a jerk, I mean, you know, in Jungle Fury you also had Jared being a jerk, and then he ended up turning good at the end. But given that Blaze was a jerk, maybe there's a reason. I think that would be cool if he actually was in cahoots with hashtag cahoots with Evox, and maybe he's the reason Evox got into the system. He wanted to become an avatar. Like, I think it would be cool with if they found a way to fix both of them, and then Roxy's like, oh, thank God I'm back, Ravi and I can be together, love forever. And then Blaze is like, no, I wanted to be evil, I liked being bad. I hate using the Spider-Man 3 line, but like, that could be a possibility. That could have been his plan all along. Hashtag cahoots. I think that would be a neat twist. It's just too predictable that they almost always redeem human villains, and I think that would make him a more interesting villain and an interesting twist, especially since you have 2 of them there. If you only had 1 human ranger that turned bad, then, you know, it would be pretty obvious they would eventually turn good. But since you have both of them, you have the opportunity to do both a story where you have one of them rejoining the Rangers somehow, and then Blaze maybe being evil. It could go reverse too. Maybe I'm just being too biased because Blaze was a jerk and Roxy seemed fine, but that would almost be easier because then you could use the Blaze suit, you know, to join the team sometimes. I don't know why I did that, but I just mean like, because, you know, they don't have a lot of footage up. Make your own footage though, just film your own TV show. You could just have the Blaze suit and then Roxy is. They could go any way with that, but I think I'd like to see some sort of twist there. The only other thing that I really wanted to mention was the possibility of like references or connections to past seasons. Again, I talked about the Dino team-up thing in another video. I think that there's a possibility for something there. It could be a version of the Triple Dinos. It could just be a low-level Dino Charge crossover, like a Sledge or something. I'm gonna kind of temper my expectations of that. I just thought it was like a fun thought exercise to do that. But I personally, I mean, I think it would be really cool to have maybe like some, not necessarily cameos, but like bigger connections to things like, oh, so-and-so sent this over, this is possible because so-and-so. But I think it'll be very low-level connection mentions. Like, I think it would be cool if Evox or something was somehow connected to a previous antagonist or event we know about. Like, if he was Venjix, somehow made it into our dimension, or like Venjix's brother, Tenjix. Wait, his name's already Evox. you know, I think that would be cool, but I'm not expecting it. Again, like, the season's been giving me a lot of hope, and I've been enjoying the glow of enjoying PR, but I'm trying to temper it. But I think it's fun to at least think about it, and I like that within these first 3 episodes, I've been personally thinking about a lot of theories. I've seen a lot of people discussing it, a lot of thought exercises going on, but we'll have to see. But what do you guys think? What are some of your theories on what might happen in Beast Morphers based off of just wild speculation, based off of Go Busters, based off of the few episodes we've seen? If you guys would like, and I might do this anyway, but I might do an update on this theory video when we get to the mid-season break, just based on the developments and anything I might have forgotten. But I could go on for another longer, but this is already 15 minutes and I wanted this to be like 10. Classic me. But anyway, until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and of course, climb the steps, entering that bell to notifications for all my videos. Until next time, Dawson Ryder, signing out.